Thanks, Jenny.
It's like surprise guest. Who do we have?
There's never a dull moment here in Reynoldsburg, that's for sure.
Don't worry, if we think there's going to be, the turkey will be sighted somewhere.
Yes.
I'm showing it over here on my end.
All right. All right, looks like we are here, everybody. We'll give it a couple of minutes just to let everybody kind of log on. All right, welcome everybody to the 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. Our new intro music is hopefully Facebook safe. It is an original piece of music. Thank you to Ravane Music for helping to provide a theme song for the show. For those of you that don't remember, apparently Facebook put us in Facebook jail a few weeks ago on our Halloween show when apparently Michael Jackson Thriller was against the rules to play. So we have some interesting technological things going on today. We have two guests here at the 12 o'clock show. We're going to start off with Franklin County Public Health Commissioner Joe Mazzola. Joe, welcome. We appreciate you for coming on today.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be with you.
I know you've got a couple of good things to, for an update, but also joining me is Robert Barga, board member from Reynoldsburg City Schools. So like I said, something tells me we may have a couple of good questions as the morning kind of continues here. Starting off, obviously you just got out of a press conference that I'm sure everybody was kind of watching. If you could just give us maybe like just a brief summary of what happened, and then we'll kind of go into a couple of other questions.
Sure, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me today. I'm a big fan of the show. Try to tune in every Wednesday. I think it's a great opportunity for your residents and your community to stay informed. So thanks for inviting me. About an hour ago, Franklin County Public Health, Columbus Public Health, the Mayor of Columbus, Mayor Ginther, and our Franklin County Board of Commissioners jointly had a press conference to announce that our community will be issuing a stay-at-home advisory for Franklin County beginning on Friday. This advisory is consistent with the governor's announcement yesterday when he talked about an upcoming curfew for the state, but it does sort of take it a step further. We're asking our residents, we're advising our residents to stay home as much as possible over the next 28 days. We are seeing, as you all know, a significant increase in COVID-19 cases in our county, and more concerning is the rise and surge in hospitalizations that we are experiencing here in Franklin County and across the state. So we're really trying to ask our residents to really take additional precautions by staying home as much as they can. Go to work, go to school, but certainly limit any additional activity outside of your home. We're also advising with the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. I know we had Diwali over the weekend, but other holidays that are coming up, we continue to advise our residents to avoid any interactions with those outside of your household. We know that there are significant number of cases associated with informal gatherings and some of those more social settings. And we really want to advise our residents to take additional precautions as we approach the holidays. So our advisory, I think, was just publicly released here over the last few minutes. We'll get that out and posted. But again, the overall message for our community is that if it's not essential, to please refrain from any additional activity outside of your home, and certainly any interactions with others. We have to take these steps collectively, all of us, so that we can slow the spread of the virus in our community.
Well, we appreciate, getting that firsthand news right after the conference. I know a couple of questions that always come up about Reynoldsburg is we are obviously the 43068 zip code, and typically that has been one of the, I guess you would say, the hot spots in the Franklin County area. One thing that I try and let residents know and the school district know is that 43068 does not just encompass Reynoldsburg City, it also has other areas, so it's not just specific to Reynoldsburg. When that information is released, can you kind of break down like what exactly is in that information? Is it cases from the beginning? Is it active cases, things like that?
Well, the advisory that we are going to release, we'll talk through some of the specifics of what we're asking our residents to do and to not do. But certainly on our website, we have more information by zip code about the trends in cases that we have that we're seeing in our community. As you mentioned, the Reynoldsburg area, that zip code that you just talked about, has been one of the higher incidence parts of our community, and so we're looking at more opportunities to kind of engage with our community. And I want to thank the city of Reynoldsburg. I want to thank the Reynoldsburg City Schools and other partners in the Reynoldsburg community have been just tremendous. I know we had our testing pop-up clinic a few weeks ago. We're looking for more opportunities to do those kinds of activities to help support our residents. We're also looking at more opportunities to distribute masks and also to again make sure that we are providing the best information and guidance to our residents. But as we look at Franklin County as a whole, we really are seeing some troubling signs. Again, the rate of increase in cases that we have seen over the last 6 weeks, and then as I talked about, the rate of hospitalizations has just been, a rate that we haven't seen before. And what's really troubling is that when you look at the region, when you look at Central Ohio, the hospitalizations that we are experiencing we're sort of at a critical stage where we are running out, not just necessarily in terms of the number of beds that we have to care for those patients, we're running out of staff in order to care for those individuals. And I think that is what is of concern. And if you could just give me one more minute on this, what we saw back in the early parts of the pandemic, both April and then again in July, we saw those increases in cases and in some parts of the state, hospitalizations. Now what we're experiencing is it's everywhere. It's across the state. So we don't have as much opportunity to transfer patients from a healthcare standpoint. And we just don't, we're seeing the rate of transmission of this virus to a point where if we don't take dramatic steps in our behavior now, we are only going to see this continue. And we really are at a point where at some point we're gonna run out of capacity from a healthcare standpoint. I can also share that from a public health standpoint, we continue to work every day, 7 days a week on public health investigations and contact tracing that I know we talk a lot about. We're asking now, as we continue to do that, we're asking now our residents who are COVID-19 positive to self-isolate right away. They will get a call from the health department. But we're also asking the residents who may be close contacts of those individuals to self-quarantine right away. Don't wait for the health department to call you. Self-quarantine, stay at home right away so that you can, again, protect yourself and protect others as well. So we're very much at a critical point in this response.
I know one of the things we did at the city just recently, actually this Monday, is we went to more of a limited staffing. So what we're seeing, as well as what you're seeing, is a rise in things. And for us, it's a critical issue because if one person in a particular department or their spouse has COVID-19, then does it get to everyone else? Yeah. Most everybody on our second floor, our administrative floor, typically, we're a little bit more isolated. So it's kind of one person per office. So there's not a lot of close contact, but there are other things that are there. So we are also trying to limit access for the upstairs as well as our downstairs area, limited access for the public while still maintaining the ability. I mean, for us, it's, people wanting to make sure that they have their water bill paid so they don't have their water turned off. People that are still pushing through to finish up some of those home improvement projects with permits. So we're kind of altering our schedule as best as we can to allow for that. I know the school district as well is getting ready to move forward to remote learning. I believe that starts next week, correct?
Yeah, we will be starting our remote learning on Monday, and we are still evaluating our extracurriculars per your guidance that just came out. I was actually over with the superintendent right before this interview so that we could discuss it as you were announcing it live. I do want to ask you a question because I don't have the current numbers. I know that as of Monday, we were at an 8.5% rate here in Franklin County, or somewhere fairly high to that. Are those numbers still around the same area? Are we improving? Are we getting worse?
So are you referring to our positivity rate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so our positivity rate, a little context here, our positivity rate back in September, and this is in the stay-at-home advisory that we just released. In September, our positivity rate as a county was approximately 3.7%. Last week, our positivity rate as a county was 12.5%. So it has certainly gone up significantly. And again, that's another red flag for us as we look at, the trends that we're seeing. We want that positivity rate obviously to be as low as possible. But when we start having positivity rates above 10%, we know that this is, again, a circumstance where we have to take more proactive measures. So when you think about that, when you think of a positivity rate of 12.5%, you just think about how many individuals you may be coming into contact with over the course of the day who may be COVID positive. They may be asymptomatic. They may be demonstrating very mild symptoms. But the fact of the matter is that they are positive, which, of course, then leads that to potential to spread the virus to others as well. So our positivity rate has gone up significantly. We talked about the cases. We talked about the hospitalizations. And so, we really want to, take those extra steps. And if I could just build on what you were saying, Mayor, in terms of the operations of the city, we're asking all public and private employers to take those additional steps, whether it's teleworking, whether it's moving transactions online, other opportunities to really keep individuals away from each other as much as possible. And so, we know from an economic development standpoint, any kind of disruption to our employers is certainly of a concern. So we're encouraging our residents to continue to, buy things online, curbside pickup, takeout, all those things. We want to continue to reaffirm that those, our businesses are open, but we're asking them to make adjustments. We're asking the consumers and our residents to continue to support them, but maybe just in different ways. And so trying to merely kind of strike that balance as we kind of head into the holiday season.
Yeah, we've got a couple of things that we'll have to kind of alter a little bit. This tends to be the 2020, the year that I canceled everything. And so it's just, I know we're just going to kind of continue in on that, but we're going to try and do at least a few things to call attention again, to like what you said, to still promote some of our businesses, especially our small businesses that desperately need it. We are actually, one of the good things that we've been able to use our CARES money for is going out and actually being able to help our small businesses with CARES money grants. We were able to get money to the school district as well. So we're trying to do our best that way. And the rest of it, again, is just making sure people are aware that they can still shop. Maybe if there is an online option out there as well for everybody. Do you have time for a couple of questions from our studio audience?
Of course.
All right. So we got a question from a Tony Stewart. He is asking, how is this advisory different than what we saw back in March?
Right. So what we saw back in March was a stay-at-home order by the governor and by the health department. So that was basically a shutdown of all non-essential activity, and that was enforceable, by law. What we're doing here today is an advisory. There's no civil penalties. There's no financial penalties. The two health departments are not, we're not going to go around and enforce this per se. We will continue to get information out to our businesses, to obviously to our residents, other facilities, other organizations, school districts, et cetera. But what we're offering today is an advisory. And so we really hope that this will be viewed as such. We hope that our residents and our community will take this advice, make those changes that we need to see right away. But it's not a stay-at-home order. It's simply an advisory.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? All right. So I do have one question. Obviously, we have a what is called our Super Braxton 5K this weekend. It had been scheduled for a long time. It's in memory of a young student in Reynoldsburg that passed away due to cancer. And this is obviously due to raise funds for pediatric cancer research. It is a 5K. I'm participating, but I guarantee you I am not running unless I'm being chased. I do plan on walking it if we're able to have it. I know that they're working with your department as well to kind of maintain some of these things. Now, granted, that was before this announcement that you had. They're doing things very similar to what high school cross country did. Varied start times, specific pods that would go out and release, everybody wearing masks, that type of thing. Will there be any more specific guidance in terms of events like that are outdoors, that can be separated, that are out there specifically because of this one? I mean, it's so close to our community. It's so close to a lot of people's hearts. I know that there's a few people out there that are just hoping that we can at least in some way move this forward. What would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, sure. So what I would say is, and I'm happy to have a offline conversation with the event organizers, with the city, but a couple of things I would just offer. These types of events are important, and we certainly appreciate, understand that. I would advise those who maybe were planning to participate to maybe consider participating in a different fashion. So maybe, doing the walk on their own, certainly continue to give to those kinds of charities and these kinds of events. We specifically want to make sure that we ask residents who are supporting nonprofits during this time to continue to do that. We know that they're doing really important work, but we'll want to work with the organizer on this event and make sure that we continue to comply with the state orders. That's also included in our advisory, is that we will continue to adhere and implement the state guidance and state orders that are applicable to these kinds of activities. But I think our message right now with this advisory is, whether it's for an event like this or any other potential activity outside of your household, to really think twice before participating, even if it is outdoors. But we certainly can have that offline conversation, and we'll do everything we can to support you.
All right, we appreciate that. You are more than welcome, unless we have any last second questions. I'm shocked. I would have thought that there would have been at least, 20, 25 questions for you.
I thought April might pop up.
Yeah. So you're more than welcome to stay on. Obviously, if you've seen the show, I go through a lot of different other things, but if you have other things to attend to, you're more than welcome to take your leave now. We do appreciate it. Hopefully, when I say this, please don't take it the wrong way. I hope I don't have to have you on the show anytime soon talking about COVID and things of that nature. But definitely, I think sometime we can, touch base again, hopefully after the first of the year, after we get through this system. But if anytime, reach out to the office. If there's something you want to come on, we'll always work with you.
I sure will, Mayor. Thank you for the time today. Thank you to the city. Thank you to the school district and all of our partners in and around the city of Reynoldsburg. Please reach out to us as well if there's anything that we can do between now and the next time I'm on the show, obviously. But anything that we can do to help support our community, we stand ready to do so. So I appreciate the time today.
No problem. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. For those of you still watching, we're going to go ahead and move on to a couple of other things. As always, code enforcement takes the key. And so this will be a little bit easier for me this time. So what we have here is something not too far from City Hall. You can see some of the building and some of the roadway there that was going to be looked at. And again, sometimes people don't think it's as big of a deal, but when you take a look at some of the improvements just in the parking lot, you can kind of see between the gray and the darker asphalt that has been held there. It is a significant improvement. You have other facilities as well, where you can kind of see some of the pitted areas, some of the kind of the wear and tear of everything. And again, a little bit more of the asphalt, a little bit more of the touch-up area all the way across. A lot of this is important, again, because when we go out into the community and when businesses that are looking to move to Reynoldsburg, they're actually paying attention to everything. Believe it or not, we had somebody from the Columbus Dispatch, one of the photographers that came for the Diwali ceremony, was just talking about all the different buildings and everything that was coming up. And he said he's seen some things about, different changes in terms of the asphalt and all of that. Here's one right here. Again, just kind of an idea. You get touch up on the walls of the building as well as the asphalt as well. So it's just a couple of good things. This is one of my favorite ones. This was actually sent in by a resident, the before picture. So obviously, for all of us that own homes by the sidewalks, you have the idea of making sure that you take care of any of the shrubbery or bushes that go out onto the sidewalk area itself. It does have to be of a certain height. So that way pedestrians can go through, because if we are walking out there, can do it. As you can see, it still looks aesthetically pleasing, but now people can go through, without kind of having to go into the right of way or potentially into the street, things like that. We are also going to be talking a lot over the next couple of years about sidewalks. We are actually going to be instituting a sidewalk policy in the city to try and work on those. It's going to start in the areas where our road programs are going to work, so we'll be able to kind of do that as well. But again, sidewalks are an important thing. As we've mentioned many times before, you have your dumpsters that don't have any enclosures, and trash tends to accumulate in the outside areas of those facilities. So again, the businesses and apartment complexes and everywhere else are being asked to actually create some of the barriers around there just to try and contain as much of the trash as possible. Go through a couple of quick ones here. This is one of the, again, you can kind of see the wear and tear of everything on the streets right here. And then after some good conversations, you have a significant improvement as far as the drive up capacity and things of that nature. There's a lot of those things in there. I have tons of those things to share every week, but you get the idea. Now, from here on out, the asphalt companies are basically closing up shop in November. So a lot of those street conditions aren't going to, improve at that point in time. But we are looking to a robust road program for next year. So we'll get more information about as when we get a little bit closer into the spring. But we are in the process of working on that. As you know, Main Street is going to be the predominant big issue all the way throughout the city. Border to border, Main Street is going to be repaved all the way through, so we got to keep that in mind. We're also going to be working on a couple of other roads as well. The budget that we're looking at, but also to make sure we get as many of those residences as possible. So that's fun for that. As mentioned a little bit earlier ago, we talked about the CARES funding. Our CARES funding round is complete. We are now down to, I think, our final 6 or 7 businesses that we're getting ready to go out and give checks to. We were able to go out to Raider Nutrition, which is right on Main Street. They actually had most of their parking lot redone recently. They still got a little bit of touch up to do for the facility, not Raider Nutrition's part, but the building owners. But we got to go out there and I got myself a blueberry muffin shake, which was exceptionally good and apparently addictive because I kind of want one right now. Have you ever had a chance to be out to go out there to the Raider Nutrition?
I have not yet. I've seen all the pictures and the different posts. I've wanted to, but timing hasn't worked out with the kiddos these days.
Oh, I can only imagine. But it's just something that's out there. So hopefully for those of you can get a chance to do it and go out there. I do believe that the Raider Marching Pride is having a fundraiser at a very similar location, Vision Nutrition, which is a little bit further down on Main Street, that is also doing something to help raise a little bit of funding for the Raider Marching Pride, which is near and dear to my heart. So kind of keep an eye out for that. We did talk about the Super Braxton 5K. It is this Saturday. Stay tuned. We'll see what we can do about that. As far as the city is concerned, we will be doing a virtual tree lighting ceremony December 5th at Huber Park. We'll probably begin the events anywhere between 5:30 and 6. We're still narrowing down some time to make sure we get that good visible impact. And I've heard, don't hold me to this, but I've heard we're gonna have a special guest. Some guy from living way up north, big white beard, things like that might be coming to town. So kind of keep your eyes open for that one. We also have the Reynoldsburg Community Association. Again, some things may be subject to change with these recent orders, but there are some events with a Secret Santa, as well as Stuff the Stocking on December 5th earlier in the day, but we'll get back to that. One thing that isn't going to change is going to be our Tomato Festival volunteer meeting, which is going to be December 1st. That will most likely be online and virtual, kind of similar to what we do, what we're doing here. So keep in mind for that. I think that those posts actually just went on our Facebook page yesterday. So keep an eye if you're interested in volunteering and helping out with this Tomato Festival that, until I'm told otherwise, that sucker's going on next year. We definitely want to have it. We want to have some fun again. Hopefully next summer we'll be in better shape between people getting things taken care of and the vaccines and things of that nature. We've got it. So all of those great events aside, what I'm really looking forward to is talking with Robert. Robert and I served on the Board of Education for a few years, and we've been in contact basically ever since I got into office about some things that impact the school district and things like that. I know the biggest change to your family is the new little boy.
Yeah, we welcomed Walter into the world midway through October. He's a little early, but that's our pattern. So now we have our 3 boys, all under the age of 3, and
you're still
it's
awake?
Exhausting.
I was gonna say you're still awake. Okay.
They tell me I'm awake. I'm not fully sure. I do want to add before we move on about the Super Braxton. We talked a little bit about it at the board meeting last night, and we do have several members who are looking forward to working on it. The clubs that put this together, and especially April Darling and the work she does on this, it's absolutely phenomenal. We've been working on it since Corona hit. When we first started to have issues, I reached out to you and you right away said we could take over if we need to. So we do appreciate that. As of now, it's still ongoing. Obviously, we're going to reevaluate it. We do anticipate some athletic adjustments might be coming down in the future. We'll probably include that in that. But the reality is use your best judgment, guys, at home. If you have an immunocompromised system, if you have any comorbidities, stay home. We can support Super Braxton through other means if needed. Stay safe, but if you feel comfortable, come join.
I think the weather's supposed to look really good for Saturday morning. A little cool, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm not running, so I'll be walking and enjoying. I did the 5Ks before. I did one for, I believe there was a fundraiser for the girls soccer team. And I did so well on it that I got the award for the last person to finish. And it was a gift certificate to BW3s for wings, which in my opinion basically says, you know what, this is not your event. Why don't you just go have some wings and you'll be fine. So there you go. There's my contribution to the 5K. As far as other than the new baby, as far as how's COVID impacted, just your family life and things like that, not necessarily getting into the school stuff yet.
Well, I think COVID hits us really all the same, which is none of us get hit the exact same. And it's every single person's going to have a unique story with it. Like a lot of people, I lost a majority of my income stream when Corona hit, and court shut down. If I can't show up for 3 weeks, or 3 months, what am I going to do? How many transactional things are there when the recorder's office isn't open? So you start to hit those issues, and a lot of people suffer that. I know while we did not lose as much income as a whole in Reynoldsburg as was expected, a lot of people suffered. We looked at some of those numbers in financial committee, and we can see the impact. And that's one of the things that we did. When we got cut, we explored really quickly how we're going to be able to protect our teachers and our staff, and I'm sure most of the companies out there did that too. That's just one of those things that you have to think about with that. So like most of us, I lost that income, but we found new ways to do it. I started taking the boys out 2-3 times a day instead of once on their walks, which in the beginning of March was a little more complicated. But we started exploring more. I started talking to some new people. I found some new sidewalk issues to send over to Councilwoman Lawson Rowe when I have a representative, or when I have a moment as she is my representative.
I believe that one of them is there's a connectivity issue between Retton and Bryce Road, that this all of a sudden the sidewalk just goes and then it stops. I've seen that one. I know that one that you're talking about. So
it's anywhere though, because it's I never really noticed this stuff when I was walking on my own. But when you're pushing a stroller, you notice that every 5 or 6 actual blocks of concrete, there's a huge pop, and I have to do a wheelie. And I started thinking, what if I'm in a wheelchair? Do I have the ability to get over that? And if I'm going down, do I have the ability to stop myself and do it in a controlled way? So I think there's a lot of work that I kind of noticed with that, but it was, we went out, not all of it's negative work. We enjoyed the new park. RJ is a huge fan of your new musical systems over there. And, you and I talked about this for a long time on the board. We really wanted some ADA compliant equipment for our kiddos around town. And I really appreciate that you got it.
It's we have a great, if you haven't had a chance to get out to JFK, please go ahead and do so. I usually, no, look at this. No, you have to look at this. To anybody who's just sitting there and like, I just came to pay a ticket. I don't know why you're bringing, but that's part of it, just to give people that exposure. It just gives some people some opportunities. And the stuff that we're keeping in mind when we look at Civic Park and some of the potential changes that are coming to Civic Park. One of the best suggestions that was given by a community member is to make sure that there is a potential for like an artificial field turf. So students that are limited mobility can actually still participate. It's not like Dublin has one, but it's at a specific baseball field. This would actually potentially be for, you could do volleyball, you could do soccer, you could do something like that. So even students that have limited mobility or even adults that have limited mobility can still participate without the fear of like sinking into the grass after a wet season. So that's something that we're looking at is doing as well to try and maintain the equality for everybody to participate.
No, that's
it was a great idea. I mean, it was something that I had not heard of. I had not thought of it. I wish the resident had given me their name when they said it, but we were out at the farmer's market and they said, it will look really good. And so 25 minutes later, I thought that was the greatest idea I'd heard in such a long time. So it was a great opportunity with it. Now, as far as the school district goes, obviously we know COVID, we know the impact, we know going back in that. Outside of COVID related specific issues, what do you think the biggest challenges are facing Reynoldsburg City Schools as you move forward?
Outside of COVID, we actually, we're entering into a bit of a dry cycle in Reynoldsburg. We recently just voted on our 5-year forecast. Now it should be adjusted. As I said, there's a couple of things with income that we were forecasting that we're pleasantly surprised. And obviously we have property valuations are still coming down from our 3 different counties. But the reality is we've started to hit the point on our financials where at the end of this year, we're starting to go negative for our comparatives from what we're bringing into what, I don't know how to do what you did with this camera.
There you go.
With our comparatives of what we're bringing in versus what we're sending out. Again, this is something that we've been planning for a very long time. You and I were on finance committee together for 2 years. You've been planning for this for a long time. We last passed our levy back in, I think, 2010. It started in 2011. And we've had a nest egg for some time, a substantial nest egg, higher than what a lot of districts do in terms of our percentage of revenue. But the reason is for this, because as of this year, we're going to start taking in less. As of 2025, with the current numbers, and of course, those will be adjusted. Hopefully, we get the Cut Patterson round 2 through. You and I did a lot of work on lobbying on that last time, and we are attempting to now. So watching at home, go on to President Dunlap's board site on Facebook. Find the information on the resolution we passed last night regarding fair funding. Send a letter to your representatives. If we can get this done, that's $5 million for our district per year. On that alone, just getting rid of the cap, ignoring the rest of the formula. But if we don't get any of those changes by 2025, we don't have the funds to finish the school year. So we're going to have to start looking at our alternatives. Obviously, in our district, we have a really bad history when it comes to some of the relations with the programs we're able to offer or choose to offer sometimes. And we don't want to get back to that. So what we're going to have to look at is where can we tighten our belt a little bit, as Member Abrams likes to put it, go on a little bit of a diet and remove some stuff. And we've started doing some of that already, but it's something that's going to have to continue. And eventually we're going to have to come back to the voters and actually ask them for some help. And, we have a large millage, but if you look at us compared to the rest of Central Ohio, we are not on this first page because we're actually right here at the start of the second page. We are comparatively very well positioned. We have a very reasonable amount, but we do have, as a whole, and this is increasing, hopefully we'll be more with your code compliance work.
Yep.
The valuations of our properties are lower on average than the surrounding counties. So we have to expect more from our taxpayers to be able to support the same programs. And it isn't fair, but that's why we're asking you to write to your representatives. But that's the first of the big hurdles we're facing. The next hurdle is size. And I know a lot of people at home think that this is due to open enrollment, but the reality is we've been reducing our open enrollment each and every year. There's a little bit of concern that we may eventually hit a bubble because none of us want to take a kid who's here and kick them out midway through their school career. But at a certain point, we might be forced into deciding that because we have a Reynoldsburg student who needs that spot. So one of the things that we have explored, and we began this last year before COVID hit, was our building designs and what we're going to do. We've talked about a K-specific building. We've talked about a new administration building. We've talked different levels of schools. Elementary is a lot less needed. We're really looking at some of our higher level schools and reformatting our high school entirely. And that's something that we had planned on doing this year, but COVID delayed us. We're planning on doing a lot with our academies. As most of you know, we have 4 primary academies. I like to think of us as having 5 because I put Eastland Fairfield in there with our other academies. But we're somewhat locked into these academies because of some structures that were created before either of us were on the board. And so one of the things that we're looking to do is expand our academies, give our students more agency, more options, and empower them better to make these decisions and start to engage their young adult life. We're looking to do more interactions between them, allowing our academies a better flow. Every student is a Reynoldsburg student. You're not a Bell student. So that's one of those things we're really looking forward to. Though it is not Reynoldsburg on Eastland Fairfield, we did just hire a new superintendent. She will take over at the start of the year. Bunny, who has been with us since the 80s, altogether when she was a teacher with us and joined us as superintendent, I think roughly a decade ago. She will be retiring, earning her very much needed retirement. And we're looking to bring Eastland Fairfield into a modern career center style, modeled after the Cuyahoga Career Center. So there's going to be a lot of interactions. I've asked her to reach out to couple different people, including some of our mutual friends with the Building and Trades Associations to try and build some apprentice programs into it. We're also looking to bring back our home programs, possibly a shop light class, which
I heard that last night.
yeah, those of you who remember my campaign know I want shop in the schools, and I'm really excited about that. But there's new satellite programs, and she's really going to launch it. The board was extremely excited to get her. We stole her from Bexley, which is a big steal, and we're waiting to take off because she's going to launch us into the stratosphere.
Mhm.
So those are our non-corona. Hopefully, we get our vaccine and we can get back on track here soon.
Well, I think the two of us could probably talk for a couple of hours on school funding alone. But
Just a little.
Just to give you an idea, the amount of money that Reynoldsburg loses typically has, it's gone up every single year because of the number of resident students that are coming into Reynoldsburg. Obviously, we're seeing growth in that regards. What was interesting is I was talking with another district recently when you talk about buildings, and I think a big issue that was hit when the Summit Elementary and Summit High School were built is the projections that the Ohio Facilities Commission came up with about how big the schools should be was woefully inadequate compared to what the actual potential for growth was. And I've actually not found a single district that I've talked to that said, yeah, they got our numbers right on. It's always 10 to 12% lower than what it actually should be. So I know that's kind of like an odd thing. That's an odd version things, and that's not a commercial break. That's just a completely different thing. We're going to go with the flow on that one.
Are we being played off here? Is it the Oscars?
It's the Oscars. Yeah, I would say we talked to that. Honestly, I would not be surprised if that was the case. But school funding is an important thing. So I know from the city of Reynoldsburg's point of view, obviously the school districts get a majority of their funding from property taxes. Which includes also retail, commercial, as well as residential. So that's where you're getting the most of it. We know that there's obviously a lot of housing development that's going to be coming into Reynoldsburg, but we're also working diligently to bring in additional, commercial properties, commercial viability, and making sure that we work together with all the tools in the city's toolbox to bring some of those bigger businesses in, which hopefully in the not too distant future we'll be able to share some good news and things of that nature.
That actually, one of the things that we've been doing, you and I, with this is on the TIFs, the tax incremental financing. We have this option, and we've been doing a lot of work between the city and the schools to try and make these commercial developments that you're working on, or some of the apartments or the senior homes that we're building, benefit the schools more so than normal. Normally with a TIF, we lose money. But with the way that the mayor has been working on it, we're going to redirect a lot of that money to the district's benefit. So it's kind of a win-win.
It is. And I think that just my background as a teacher, being on the school board and understanding that that we are not independent of each other. The school district is only as successful as the city, and the city is only as successful as the school district. And really the only way we can prosper all the way around is if we actually work together, which is great. It's helpful that it's right across the street. And you and I are never fearful of having a quick phone call and all of that to address some things. So
we text way too.
Oh yeah, but it's always good. The other stuff that kind of comes up, and I know you mentioned about that, and Eastland Fairfield is a huge thing. Also, just as far as the coordination, when we've actually been sitting with some of our developers that are talking about building schedule. Obviously, we're building the Swensons. We're finishing off the Wright Pack Credit Union. One of the things that comes up is they say that it's hard to find labor for some of these trade positions, and we always talked about it. I know you've talked about it a long time, about the impact of lack of whether it's bricklaying, whether it's other construction, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, and that's exactly the wheelhouse that Eastland Fairfield has, and we want to be able to take advantage of those things because it does impact everything. Because I know when I was a teacher, not every student that I taught wanted to go to college, that they wanted to do something else, but they just never had those opportunities to have that kind of skill given to them. So now I think if we're working with Eastland, that does help. We actually have a student intern from Eastland Fairfield here this year. We had one at the beginning of COVID. I think she was able to get here for two or 3 weeks, and then COVID shut us down. So we've started that back up again. And I know I've reached out to the superintendent about starting kind of some internship from this high school level as well, starting after the second semester once we figure out exactly how all that's going to look. So
yeah, I think that would be a great partnership. Obviously, Eastland Fairfield, we're a member district, and we're very big with them. But I think a lot of what you were saying with regards to the trades is something that is necessary. It's very true. When we have some of our conversations with different unions or different representatives, We're constantly being told we have an apprentice program if we can get people in it, but there's a problem with finding the people who want to be in it and finding people who will continue to maintain standards that need to be maintained. But let me tell you guys, if you have a kid watching this right now, you could be looking at $100,000 in college debt, or you can be looking at a $50,000 a year job with benefits right out of high school. And the difference is through the Trade Center, we do your certifications, we do training. If you work through the Building Trades Association, which is just down the street in Bexley, they give you an apprentice program. You can join as a journeyman, and you can kind of explore the different fields that way. It's a great opportunity if you want to go that route. And even if you want to go to college, trust me, the trade programs are essential. We do a lot of stuff that does translate it. We do coding. We'll teach you how to fix your faucet in your apartment, stuff that is going to be translatable for the rest of your life, even if you don't go into building trades.
Yeah. For full disclosure, in my shop class, I think we were one of the last ones when I was in Westerville City Schools. I was voted into the business arena to get me away from the anything sharp, basically, and just take that for what it is.
They didn't let me kneel the arc welder.
Yeah, there are just a lot of things like that. So right now, we'll see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions from our home audience?
Yeah, we have a question actually from Council Member Jenkins here. She says, Mr. Barga, can you give an update on kindergarten classes at Reynoldsburg schools?
Yes. Currently, all of our classes are going to be going over to virtual on Monday. We have not yet decided what we're going to do with any of our extracurriculars or athletics. Do anticipate something coming down from that. Obviously, going forward, we are planning, hopefully, to be opening our hybrid system again in the second semester. Details will be coming on that. The current deadline for letting the district know if you're interested in keeping your student at home in a virtual academy, or if you're interested in sending them to the in-person hybrid option, that is due this Friday. There's some discussion on that still, so there might be some communications coming down later, but as of right now, that is still due Friday. That is our current state with kindergarten. We're going to continue to evaluate these things, much like some of our IEP and 504 programs. We're going to try and see what we can do safely to allow better interaction for these students, because there are some very real developmental needs. With kindergarten specifically, on Monday, I talked to the superintendent, and one of the things we talked about was my concern with the developmental, frankly, the destruction of it right now with what we're doing, and the fact that we've put it entirely on hold of a lot of our students. And Mr. Brown brought up right away that how are we going to transition kindergarteners into first grade? Because typically a lot of this social interaction is what we learn in kindergarten. We don't have a plan for first graders to learn that stuff because we spend an entire year doing it. And so we have this very real issue, and these kids are excited to be in school. So it's a constant evaluation. I'm sure if you wanted to reach out to the superintendent, he would talk to you for quite a while on some of the stuff that he's looking at with our ideas for our students who need that extra bit of help to get through this or to overcome a barrier that's normally going to be there for their age range.
I know we still have, I know they're pilot programs, but they're a couple-year-old pilot programs for full-time kindergarten at Rose Hill and French Run, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I know that, you talked about potentially levying a potential building and what that would look like. I know that one of the things that was always talked to for me when I was on the board is, finding a way to get all-day kindergarten just in general throughout the district. So I know it's a lot easier said than done. I think if we had the opportunity to snap our fingers and get that done, I think everybody would be there and do that. But I know that's something that the district was looking to work on at some point in time in a world, again, taking COVID out of it.
Yeah, the district, we actually were talking about that March this year when everything started to hit, because there's been a lot of moves and there's a clear desire within the community here to offer all-day kindergarten. Personally, my family, we wouldn't want all-day kindergarten. We're in a position that we want a half day when it comes that time. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, as a district, offer it to our parents to see what makes the most sense. We have students who do need the assistance that is caused by that, but we also have parents who frankly need to be able to have their kid in a safe and secure environment where they know their kid is learning while they're keeping that roof over the kid's head. And so it's something that we were exploring. We are hoping to be able to have some sort of announcement in the future. We were really hoping to have a solid plan this year. There was a lot of talk about how we could rearrange some of our buildings, but Corona hit everything. And it's not just with that. It hit our preschool programs, some of our different pilot programs we do. to help our students actually learn to be child caregivers while taking care of some of our preschoolers. And all of that has been impacted by this.
Well, I kudos to you on the board for making some of the, I know that, the tough calls that you have to make about when students come in, when they don't, what it looks like, but balancing, the health and needs of the staff, of the students, of the mental health of the community members in general. Then you look at the extracurriculars and how important that is, that with as few outlets as kids have, the extracurricular stuff. We feel that on our side, just when it comes to our parks and recreation programs and things like that. And we all want this to work out, and we all just, have to work together to try and kick this thing to the curb all the way going through. Did we have any other questions? Are we good?
We're good for right now.
Okay, we're good for right now.
Want to follow up slightly on what you were saying with what we're doing, making the hard decisions. The reality is, one of the hardest decisions we just made is to go back to this virtual system, and that's not something we wanted to do.
Yeah.
None of us wanted to, but
my freshman didn't want you to do that either.
No, it's there's a lot of negative, and it's as Mr. Mazzola said earlier, we have a 12.5% positivity rate in our schools. Our students are at a 0.3 percent, which is phenomenal. Our staff is at a 1.6%, which is also phenomenal. And so we're having some great numbers, but some of the problems are we're actually running into having issues with our staffing when we have people who are sick, when we have the quarantines, because we're doing the same contract.
It's the quarantine that's the one that's the hard one.
So last Friday, we had one of our central office people, Miss Wonder, was acting as a secretary at one of our buildings. We're constantly hiring substitutes right now to be able to keep running. We voted on some resignations last night. We have bus drivers who are out sick, and so that's causing huge delays. That's the reality of what we're facing. Our students and our staff are doing phenomenal at doing their job. Whether they're fully wearing the mask properly or not, they're doing it right. Whatever they're doing is working. We have the right sanitation, we have the right washing, we have the right distancing. But we're starting to hit that point where we're running out of staff. And it's very hard to do that. We can't run without them. And so we're kind of being forced into a situation with that, but we're hopefully going to recover.
Yeah, we will. So just if there's no other questions, there's usually one at the very end that comes in right towards the end, but I'll just kind of go over a couple of quick things. Obviously, we have volleyball going on here in the city. That's still going on. Basketball, Parks and Rec basketball is still taking registrations all the way through the end of November. They're going to be starting that hopefully sometime soon. I know we've had contact with the athletic department in Reynoldsburg about how that's going to look, especially in light of some of these other conditions that have recently come out and how that looks. So we'll always be reevaluating, but again, hopefully we know the importance of some of those extracurricular activities. So that's really the wrapping up for the show today. Do we have a question?
We did have one
Look at
question
that.
earlier about, well, it was earlier, but I wanted to get to any school questions that we had. It was a resident wanted to know about the Super Rex and 5K. Will they be notifying any of road closures and how that will be done?
Yeah, all of that information will be out. We were kind of waiting until basically today's the day that we're going to have to make the call one way or another, just because we have to notify the residents and we have to make sure everything's ready to go and some of the logistic things. But we are waiting to hear exactly what Franklin County and most honestly, if the governor was going to put any additional restrictions out there, which right now I have not heard any, but I know that usually he gives his announcements on Thursday. Our Stern talking to on Thursday at 2:00.
I don't know. We got sent home early yesterday, so maybe that's what we're going to get today.
We may indeed. But keep watching the Facebook page for the government, as well as I'm sure Reynoldsburg City Schools will have updates, as well as just the Lions Club that helps with that. I'm sure you'll see it out there on social media. Next week is a special Thanksgiving edition of the Wednesday show, 12:00 show with Mayor Joe. Reynoldsburg City Council President Angie Jenkins will be joining us. She has decided to come in before she heads down, I think, to go pick up her son from Cincinnati from college or something like that. So we've got that coming on. So she's going to come in here and we're going to talk about all these wonderful things that we've got going on in the city, how her life has adjusted to being called Madam President everywhere she goes, which is got a great ring to it. If there aren't any other questions, all right. Again, everybody, you've seen it, you've heard it from Franklin County, you've heard it from the governor, you've heard it from us as far as wearing masks, staying safe, limiting contact. Obviously, it's not what anybody wants. My family is staying just the four of us this Thanksgiving. It's not exactly what we wanted to do, but we have other family members that have certain health issues, and my wife is a teacher. we didn't want to put anybody at risk, and we certainly don't want to be put at risk ourselves. So we hope that everybody makes the best decisions for them and their families. Try and wear your mask as often as possible. Stay safe, stay respectful. And apparently no one did last week at one of the unnamed grocery stores that I went to, but they were not putting their shopping carts away. And let's just say, I think about 10, 15 minutes of me actually putting the carts back was there. Somebody asked me, do you work for Kroger? And I'm sorry, do you work for so-and-so? And I'm, no, I don't. I just got to put these carts away. Just please put them back. It's not that hard.
Was it on Taylor or was it on May?
I will not decide to say that one.
Okay.
So we'll just go with that. But please stay safe, stay respectful. We'll see you next week. And again, special thanks to Joe Mazzola from Franklin County Department of Health, as well as board member Robert Barga for joining us today. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care, guys.